Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something that's honestly both fascinating and, well, a little bit terrifying. We're calling it the Great Cloud Heist. You know, when you upload your most sensitive data to the cloud, you probably picture it safely locked away in this private, impenetrable vault, right? But the reality? It's a lot more like checking your data into a massive multi-tenant hotel. Sure, you've got your own room, but you're sharing the building, the hallways, the electricity, and the plumbing with literally hundreds of complete strangers. And as we're about to see, that illusion of perfect, pristine isolation is under serious threat from some incredibly clever, highly technical attacks. So, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll look at the cloud isolation illusion. Second, we'll break down the types of cross-VM attacks. Third, we'll go inside cache timing attacks. Fourth, we'll cover memory and transient threats. And finally, we'll wrap up with mitigating cross-VM vulnerabilities. Okay, let's dive right into this first one, the cloud isolation illusion. I really want to pose this question right up front for all of us. Is your cloud data truly isolated? I mean, we've basically been conditioned to believe that when we spin up a virtual machine, a VM, it exists in this perfect, pristine vacuum. But the fundamental premise of public and private clouds, the whole reason they're so economically efficient, is resource sharing. You are literally sitting on the exact same physical silicon as completely unknown entities. Now, to understand how attackers actually breach this setup, we have to understand the hotel manager, so to speak, and that's the hypervisor. This is the crucial software layer that's tasked with managing the hardware and enforcing logical isolation between all the different VMs running on that single shared physical server. It's the boss. It dictates who gets CPU time, who gets memory, and it's supposed to guarantee that one guest can't go peeking into another guest's room. But what happens when attackers just bypass the manager entirely?
Well, that brings us to Section 2, Types of Cross-VM Attacks.
According to the source material, there are three main categories of threats we need to worry about here. The first is called a VM escape. This is where an attacker uses a memory corruption exploit to literally break out of their own VM and take direct control of the underlying hypervisor. Once they have that, yeah, it's pretty much game over. They run the whole server. The second is VM hopping, where an attacker moves from one VM to directly compromise a co-resident VM. But the third one, and arguably the most insidious of the bunch, is the cross-VM side-channel attack. Instead of kicking down the front door, side-channel attacks extract sensitive data by silently observing shared hardware resources, like CPU caches or memory buses. And they do this without ever technically violating the hypervisor's software boundaries. Crazy, right? And to really get how they target this shared hardware, we have to talk about modern CPU architecture. Think about how every single CPU core has its own isolated level 1 and level 2 caches. That's private space. But then, look further down at the massive level 3 last level cache. That cache is shared across all the cores. It is the literal shared plumbing of our multi-tenant hotel. So an attacker sharing this cache with a victim can actually monitor the victim's access behavior simply by observing how data moves through this shared space. So how exactly does that work? Let's move to Section 3, Inside Cache Timing Attacks. Let me break down a highly technical exploit known as the flush plus reload attack. It's basically a three-step recipe, and it's wild. Step 1 is flush. The attacker targets a specific shared memory address and forces it out of the entire cache hierarchy, just kicks it right out. Step 2 is wait. The attacker pauses just long enough to give the victim VM a chance to execute code that might use that exact memory address. And finally, Step 3 is reload. The attacker tries to load that memory address themselves, and they use a high-resolution CPU timer to measure exactly how long it takes to load. And this right here is where the magic, or, well, the theft really happens. If the attacker's reload is super fast, it means it was a cache hit. The only way it got back into the cache so quickly is if the victim VM accessed it during that brief waiting period. On the flip side, if the reload is slow, the data had to be fetched all the way from main memory, which tells the attacker the victim was idle. By constantly monitoring these tiny microsecond-level timing differences, attackers can deduce exactly what instructions the victim is running. It's absolutely incredible. Researchers have actually used this exact method to extract highly secure cryptographic keys, like AES and El-Gamal, right out of a neighboring VM. Okay, on to Section 4, Memory and Transient Threats. Now, hypervisors really do try to be helpful, but sometimes they inadvertently create massive vulnerabilities. You see, RAM is the most expensive and scarce resource in a cloud environment. So hypervisors use this trick called memory deduplication. If VM1 and VM2 are running identical operating systems or identical apps, the hypervisor realizes they have identical pages of memory. So instead of storing it twice and wasting space, the hypervisor deletes one and just points both VMs to a single shared physical location. It saves a ton of space, but unfortunately, it also just created a shared target for attackers. Because here's what happens. When an attacker tries to modify that shared deduplicated page, the hypervisor has to jump in with a copy on write mechanism. It suddenly has to make a new unshared copy so the other VM isn't messed up. That copying process, it takes measurably longer than a normal memory write. So just by measuring these write times, an attacker can detect if a neighbor VM is running specific software, they can build covert communication channels, or they can even figure out if they're trapped inside a virtualized environment to begin with. And if all of that wasn't concerning enough, we also have the evolution of transient execution attacks, like Spectre and Foreshadow. There's a really striking quote from the sources that says, Foreshadow NG is the first transient execution attack that fully escapes the virtual memory sandbox. These attacks actually exploit how modern CPUs try to predict the future to speed up processing. It's a feature called branch prediction. Attackers essentially trick the CPU into guessing incorrectly, which causes it to speculatively execute code out of bounds. Now, even when the CPU realizes its mistake and throws the result away, the data it touched is left behind in the cache. And that is exactly where an attacker can steal it. Traditional page table isolation, it literally cannot prevent this kind of unauthorized memory access. So, how do we stop this? Let's get into Section 5, Mitigating Cross-VM Vulnerabilities. There are three major defense strategies we can use against these tactics. The first is hard isolation. This is effectively an air gap. You simply don't share hardware at all. Now, this offers the absolute highest security for sure, but it completely destroys the economic efficiency of cloud computing. The second is soft isolation, where we change how the hypervisor schedules CPU time to actively limit interactions. And the third is real-time anomaly detection, like a really cool system proposed in the research called Cloud Radar. Let's actually take a closer look at how these last two work in practice. Think of Cloud Radar like elite hotel security operating on two separate tracks. First, using signature-based detection, it actually notices when a protected VM starts executing sensitive cryptographic operations. Simultaneously, using anomaly-based detection, it watches the hardware performance counters of all the other VMs for unusual cache behavior. You see massive spikes in cache misses, those are the classic telltale signs of a flush plus reload attack. So, when Cloud Radar sees an attacker causing cache anomalies at the exact same moment a victim is doing cryptography, it immediately raises the alarm and instantly migrates the malicious VM to a completely different server. Pretty smart, right? Another absolutely brilliant mitigation is the scheduler-based defense, which is that soft isolation we mentioned. Remember, side-channel attacks require the attacker to observe the victim frequently and with extremely high resolution. So, by enforcing what's called a minimum runtime or MRT guarantee, the hypervisor simply forces VMs to run for slightly longer uninterrupted blocks of time before it switches to another VM on the same core. By just slowing down how often VMs swap, the hypervisor effectively blinds the attacker. They just can't get those fine-grained, microsecond-level timing measurements they desperately need to steal a cryptographic key. And I think that brings us to the ultimate question here. The cloud is an absolute marvel of engineering, and it's built entirely on the concept of efficiently sharing resources. But as we've explored today, every shared resource is a potential side channel. We've seen how attackers exploit CPU caches, memory deduplication, and even the CPU's own speculative predictions to totally shatter that illusion of perfect isolation. And while brilliant defenses like Cloud Radar and scheduler modifications are definitely closing these gaps, it leaves us with this final provocative thought. In the permanent tug of war between cloud efficiency and total security, which side are you trusting your data to? Definitely something to think about next time you spin up a server. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.